Hello and welcome to another training rant video. So what I do in a training rant video is I rant about something that's been on my mind or something that's been interesting to me. And today I want to talk about Arsenal's Christian message that he left like yesterday. He made a video yesterday talking about how Jesus saved his life. And I want to be clear. No matter what I say on this video, I don't want to dissuade anybody from becoming a Christian or from following or for having Jesus in their heart or like admitting Jesus into your heart. That's not my point at all. I think if that works for you as a person, that's a positive thing. So whatever works for you, whatever you think, whatever religion or whatever philosophy you think is going to help you become a better person, a philosophy that has good morals, a philosophy that tries to spiritually guide you someplace better, to live a more fulfilling life, I think that's something that you should do. I don't want to dissuade anybody from doing that. So please keep that in mind as I go on the rest of the video. I also want to say, even if you're not a Christian, I would advise you to watch that Arsenal video, because it's a really good video. It's a really genuine and heartfelt video from him. He was very clear in how he spoke. He said that when he was making the video, he just felt that God, gave him a purpose to make that video. And you can kind of see how clear his mind is. And it's something very good to watch from Arsenal, because Arsenal honestly is the first Rocket League YouTuber that got me into watching Rocket League YouTubers. He was the first guy that I watched that I really liked, and I still like him to this day. And seeing him, be spiritually fulfilled by being a Christian is a very cool thing to watch. You know what I mean? Now I'm gonna run over some of the points that he made. He made a point that he when he was young he struggled to make friends. He saw himself not being alive at 22. That's another thing that I'm gonna mention later, that Arsenal is 22 and how young people feel, because that's very relevant to this whole thing. But anyway, he talks about being young. And sorry if I suck. By the way, it's very hard to talk about a topic that's not Rocket League and praise Rocket League, because your mind is kind of like split. You're not really paying attention. You just go into auto mode. Oh, anywho, he's talking about when he was young, and how lost he felt, and how he kind of needed some guidance. And he talked about how he was a Christian when he was younger, and how that made him happy, and how it fulfilled him, and how when he became famous, he kind of he got a little bit sidetracked, and he forgot his Christian values, and he kind of got sucked into oh my God, why can't I hit anything? So yeah, he's talking about how he starts to talk about how he started to pop off, he started to become famous, and started to get all this attention, and he was having it all. He was having all the things that he wanted to accomplish, and it still didn't fulfill him. And I think that's a really strong message, and it's something that's very true, because there's a lot of things in life that we do that are just things that we do to pass the time, or things that give you instant joy, right? But it's not permanent joy, and it's not fulfillment. And you really gotta make a distinction in life to what is fulfilling and what brings you joy. Fulfillment is like the ultimate pinnacle of what you can feel in life. Fulfillment is not something that you feel often. It could be very subtle. For example, having kids gives you a fulfillment that is very subtle, because when you have kids, they're there with you every day. It's something that you can even take for granted. But however, deep inside you feel fulfilled that you have a kid, that you have somebody to pass your generation, that you have somebody that you love more than yourself, somebody that you will give your life for. That kind of fulfillment is not easy to find. And like I said, you don't always feel it every day, but it's always there deep in your core. That's the kind of fulfillment that, like, taking drugs or just drinking at parties, that kind of thing is not going to fulfill you the same way. You know what I mean? And he talks about that. He talks about what is true fulfillment, and how God can help you if you follow the ways of God and follow the Christian ways that can fulfill you. And I honestly, even though I'm not a Christian, I can completely agree with him, because really that's something that it's kind of like hard to learn in life. What really fulfills you as a person? It's kind of hard to find. For it differs for a lot of people. For example, you helping out charities. For example, you become famous, right? And you don't feel really anything. You don't feel that you're doing anything with your power or your influence. You might start giving up to a charity or working with a charity, and that might actually fulfill you because you're doing something with all the power that you got. You know what I mean? Something like that could be fulfilling, but not doing anything like that might not fulfill you. You know what I mean? If you just live for yourself and live like a very hedonistic, I don't know if that's a word, okay? I'm just pronouncing it wrong. A hedonistic lifestyle, you might not feel that fulfilled. That's just lust of the flesh, you know what I mean? Or like pleasures of the flesh. Now I gotta give props to Arsenal, and in a way to the Christian values that teach you that what is true fulfillment, because that's very hard to understand or to figure out at 22. Even in your early 20s, that's kind of hard to figure out because you're just kind of going through life, just experimenting with everything. You're experimenting with sex, you're experimenting with drugs, alcohol, all that stuff that you see is portrayed as cool. You know what I mean? And granted, those kind of things, this is me personally, those kind of things are fun. For me, they are fun. I still do them, honestly. And I'm 41. I still do all those things, and I still find enjoyment out of them. However, it's not fulfillment. It's not fulfillment, and it's not something that the more you do, you're gonna get the more fulfilled. It's quite the opposite. The more that you sink deep into those kind of vices, the worse you're gonna feel, and the worse it's gonna make your life. It's probably gonna ruin your life in some way. Now he also talks about feeling suicidal and feeling very empty. You know what I mean? It's something that happens quite a lot. Especially at that age, 22. Listen, when you're 22, some of you listening might be that age, or 25 or around. So let's say before 30. When you're at that age, you feel that you're old, and that you're mature, and in a way you are, but you're still fairly young, and you don't know how your mind is gonna change and how you're gonna feel when you reach 30 and when you reach 40. You really have no idea how your views on life are gonna change. You think that at 22 or at 20 you have it all figured out. I mean, I felt that way too, dude. I felt that I had everything figured out, ever since I was 17, sorry, because I was a pretty smart kid, and at 19 I felt like, dude, I peaked at maturity. At 19 I felt like I understood everything. At 20 and all that, I felt like I was very mature, but I honestly wasn't. There was a lot of stuff that I still didn't know. The knowledge that I acquired by growing older, and just how I feel different, and everything. But at that age, I remember being happy, but also feeling very empty. It's like that thing that you have as a teenager, that self-doubt, that self-hate that you have as a teenager. It still carries over until to your 20s. Honestly, even if you're more mature about it, you still feel it. You still feel the remnants of being a teenager. It's kind of the same feelings, you know what I mean? And then along those feelings, there's the feelings of like depression, and the feelings about, you know, ending it all. I think that's very common. I don't think you specifically need to be like super. I don't particularly think that you have to be clinically depressed to feel those feelings. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of us go through those feelings, especially at those ages. You know what I mean? It's a common thing. Anyway, he kind of speaks that Jesus and following the Christian life kind of helped fill that void. And you know what? Maybe it did. For me, it didn't. But for him, it worked. And that's what I said at the beginning. Whatever works for you, if you find something, some spiritual guidance that works for you, you should go for it. It doesn't matter what it is, Christian or any other religion, Buddhism, whatever, bro. Whatever works for you, whatever makes you better, whatever you think is going to lead you to a more peaceful and fulfilling life, to be at peace with yourself, that's something that you should pursue. Now, I mentioned earlier how, you know, drugs and vices and they provide instant gratification, but they don't provide fulfillment. I'm gonna give you some examples of what I think provide you some fulfillment in your life, and there are very easy things that most people can achieve, you know, or most people have in their life, but don't really don't really understand how fulfilling they are. They kind of take it for granted because that's just kind of how human beings are. Even if you become rich, you still have problems. It's not something you, as a human being, you adapt to your situation. You know what I mean? For example, you could be rich, right? If you're rich, for example, and you have the money and the means to have a fancy meal every day, you're gonna eventually start to take it for granted. You might even complain about the meal eventually because you're like, it doesn't hold up to your standards. You want more. You're not completely pleased. There's still like a void in you. However, on contrast to that, imagine if you're poor, you come from like a really poor family, and every time that you get a meal, you cherish it because you never know if you're gonna get a next meal. Especially if you get a good meal, you value it more because you don't have it in your life as often. You know what I mean? We human beings are very prone to become jaded very easily, and they adapt to their situation very easily, honestly. So the things that I think give you fulfillment is stuff like having friends that you can joke around with, good friends where they get your sense of humor, good friends where you can be yourself around them. That's something that's very fulfilling in life. Another thing is family. Starting a family or cherishing your family, that could be difficult because not everybody has a good family. Honestly, I understand that. But if you do have a good mother or a good father, you should cherish them and you know, understand how they fulfill you in life and how much they care for you. Stuff like that, it's very fulfilling. That actually fulfills your life more than doing any drugs or doing any vices. Another thing that could be fulfilling, and this is specifically to creative people, is having a creative outlet. For me, my first creative outlet was music, and I still love music. I still play my guitar every day. I don't make songs anymore. Like I tried following my rock star path, and it didn't quite, you know, work. But I still love music, and it's something very fulfilling in my life because, honestly, at any day, I can pick up my guitar and make you a full song with bass and drums just because I have knowledge of music and music arrangement, and that's something that to me is very fulfilling. And that fulfillment for me has translated to making videos, trying to get better at editing, trying to make better videos in general. To me, that creative fulfillment is fulfilling, fulfills my soul. You know what I mean? So those are a few examples of things that you can do in your life that are pure, that they're based on they're somewhat pure, especially if you compare them to your vices. You know what I mean? And those are the kind of things that are actually fulfilling in life. If you happen to find those, stumble upon those, you should appreciate them and value them. You know what I mean? And try to recognize that those things are more fulfilling than other stuff that you do. Even like, you know, masturbating and all that. All of that is instant gratification, dude. There are other things in life that are more fulfilling, and like I said, they could be hard to recognize because you could take it for granted because they're there for you all the time. But there's other things that I think are fulfilling. They actually fulfill your soul. Now, all those things that I mentioned, they're based on love. They're based on passion. You know what I mean? And usually when you do something out of love or something makes you feel genuine love, uncorrupted love, that's usually going to be a fulfilling thing in your life. So trying to find those things in your life, I think, is very crucial to help you get by on life, because life gives you a lot of hard situations. You know what I mean? A lot of problems that you may have from your childhood, a lot of problems that may come from your family, or having like a bad family, or somebody who hurt you in life, or even a family member that hurt you in life. Because families, even though they can be very fulfilling, families can sometimes be the main source of your traumas, honestly. Especially, like I said, if you grow up with a bad family, a bad childhood do scars you forever. That's why if you ask psychiatrists, they always ask like, how's your relationship with your mom and dad? And they always dig into your home life, because that's one of the things that really affect your development as you grow. And a lot of traumas come from that. A lot of traumas can come obviously from bullying, being bullied, or not having any friends, stuff like that. See what I mean? That once you have those things, that's why it's so fulfilling. And when you don't have them, that's why it could be traumatic not to have them, or not have them in a good way. You know what I mean? Because those are the things that tend to be very important to human beings. Now, when I was around 25, okay, to give you a little bit of background, I come from a very religious family. In my family, the solution to everything and the answer to every question is God, literally God, which is something that turned me off. So, like at 25 or 26, I became like an atheist. Then I started to realize I'm not an atheist, I'm a Gnostic, because I don't really deny the existence or the possibility that God might exist. So that's still my stand. I'm still an agnostic. I'm an agnostic, to get technical, I'm an agnostic theist or whatever, which is an agnostic that leans more to the possibility that God exists as opposed to not existing. You know what I mean? And when I say God, I don't particularly mean the Christian God or like the Jewish God. I mean God as a creator, somebody that created everything. And it doesn't have to be a person, it could be a force that created the universe, that created nature and everything. I do believe there was some kind of creation force behind everything. You know what I mean? And the same applies to that, to thinking that there's a force out there that wants, that could find peace. You know what I mean? That has like a guidance so you can reach peace in your personal life. It could be a moral, it could be your own personal philosophy, anything. But it tends to be based on something bigger than yourself. Because humanity, when we have no guidance, you know what I mean? We are a little bit lost, you know, out there. Now, one thing that atheists or like people that go through that face rebellion against Christian people, because one of the things that people rebel against Christians is because they keep pushing God real hard on you. You know what I mean? They keep pushing that message on you. And that might turn some people into like contrarians or to reactionary people that you just want to react against it. And one of the things that you see that gives you ammunition for that is that you see that a lot of Christians are not perfect. They're not really following God's path, but yet they're still preaching about it. And that's something that Arsenalrl mentions. Like, you don't have to be perfect to be a Christian or to follow God. And that's something that he's actually right about. Because, for example, let's say you know a Christian and he smokes and he drinks and he even cheats on his wife or his particular significant other, right? And yet you see him preach to you. And you're like, dude, you're not really in a position to preach about Christianity. And granted, that may be true, but what you have to understand is that even though they still have a lot of flaws, they still have that spiritual guidance that they're trying to follow. You know what I mean? They're not quite there yet, but it's like spiritual guidance that they need in their life, so they don't go even deeper into vices or like to corruption. You know what I mean? So even if they're not perfect, listen, even if they're not perfect, people can preach and can preach the word of God, and they could be Christians and have a Christian lifestyle, or somewhat of a Christian lifestyle, even if they have vices, that even if they don't fully live up to the expectations of being a Christian, it's good that they have those morals and that guidance to try to keep them on that track. Anyway, yeah, that's my video on this whole thing. Like I said, I'm gonna put the Arsenalrl video in the description so you can go watch it. It's a really good video, even if you're not a Christian. It's a very sincere and genuine video from him, and I'm very happy for him that he feels peace in his life by finding Jesus in his heart. I really do wish him the best always. And yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I'll see you guys later.